Greetings, fellow quitters, and welcome back to the Command Q podcast. We're your hosts. I'm John Pelfrey.
And I'm Maari Casey.
And we're going to take our summer quick quit series onto an interesting sort of question. We're going to talk about quit underestimating kids. Whether you're a parent, a coach, an aunt, or an uncle, or looking for a summer intern, we think that digital natives get a bad rap and they have a lot to offer. Today, we're going to talk about how to keep from missing out on the value of young people's ideas and their perspective. Maari, our warm-up question today, what's something your children have done that really impresses you?
Yeah, my kids are always asking really great questions. I love the age they are 11 and 13. And I love the age that they're at because they're asking questions where you can see they're really starting to form ideas and beliefs. And they're picking out things, that are questions that even adults have. So it's a great age where they're really kind of discovering and pushing things. And it's interesting as we talk about, they are obviously very digitally savvy and that's the world they live in. And so some of the questions they're bringing to me are questions that are more about like, well, why does this happen? And why does this happen? And ways more that digital things can optimize. Well, instead of doing this, like, why don't I talk to Google? Why don't I use ChatGPT? And that's just something that's so new. And it's interesting because I did a class with this group here in Raleigh at this school called Ravenscroft with these kids. And it was all about business challenges. And it's interesting because whenever I work with kids who are in middle school, high school, whatever, I always think that like they underestimate themselves a lot of times because I think they hear adults underestimate them. But like working with these kids, they had the idea for this quick quit series. And I think some of the stuff that they brought back to us as like business ideas was like super, super smart, very thought through and very confidently speaking. So I do feel like with a lot of kids, it's like you have to let them know that they can talk about their opinions and voice their opinions a little bit more than we allow them to do a lot of times.
Yeah, absolutely. I've found that with my son, he's made some good business recommendations to me and to us. He's recommended Discord to us as a way to save money over Slack. And that was a funny one where he just looked at me one day and I was talking about Slack and whatever. And he always gives me this like, Dad, are you serious? Look, just what's wrong with you? Discord is better and it's free. And if your server's running slow, you can pay a little bit of money to make it run faster. But you get all these amazing things. And he gave me a 5-second tour of it and I was sold. And we switched from Slack to Discord like a month later. The technology side of it, because they are digital natives, they see a lot of different applications and they see their friends using a lot of different tools that we just may not be aware of because we're so used to using the things that we've always used. And so someone out there is building something new and we're using that old tool, that thing that, is from the dark ages as far as they're concerned. And I'll never forget too, there was another one of those sort of duh moments where ChatGPT was brand new and I wasn't used to using it, but I was trying to learn. And so what did I do? As an older guy, I went to YouTube and I was like, tell me how to use ChatGPT. And of course, there's a ton of videos out there with people my age, talking to people my age about how to use ChatGPT because that's where we all are. And he looked at me again, just like with, dumbfounded look on his face. And he's like, Dad, just ask it what you want to know and it will tell you. So if you want to ask it how to prompt, then just say, tell me how to prompt for this particular problem that I have. And then it will say, here are some of the questions that you need to answer. Here's the way that you structure this. Here's how you do. He's like, just ask it and it will tell you. And it was this light bulb moment for me of, like, oh, you just ask the genie how to ask for your wish and it will sort of come true. But because he's digitally native, this stuff is obvious to him and it's not obvious to me. I feel like I have to work so much harder for it.
It's like unlearning the ways that we've done it. I remember the same thing with my daughter and she was on I think she was on Roblox or something. And I was just like giving her a hard time. I was like, why don't you just like go talk to your friends, like get together and go hang out. And like that's what we did. Like she's like, that's what I'm doing. And I was like, oh, okay. I watched her and, and all this kind of stuff. I was like, oh, that is what you're doing. You're hanging out. And so it is, it's like, they have it's like they're not having to go through undoing some of the patterns because their patterns are completely new and fresh. And so it's pretty fun to see that kind of stuff happen.
Yeah. So why do you think that every generation always thinks that the younger one, there's something wrong with them? Like the kids these days mentality, why do you think that is?
Steve and I talk about this all the time. And I do feel like it's always going to be that way because every generation has a way of doing things. And That comes with how we're taught by our parents. It also comes with the political, social, cultural climate that you're in, and that it changes. And so in 15, 20 years, when our kids are having kids, it's going to be a completely different scenario. And all the patterns that they built in are now going to be out of date.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's just every time we have a new generation kind of flip over, our tendencies, which we've now done for 40 something years, are not the new tendencies. And so it's really, I think it's like the old dog new tricks thing. It's like we know what we're doing because we've always done it. And they see it as like, that's not how you do it now. And so there's just that tendency like, you don't understand and you don't understand. And the truth is we don't do things the same way. And that's totally normal. And it's going to happen the same way when our kids get older.
Yeah, you're right. It will. I think about all of the technological changes in my lifetime, and it's unbelievable to go from rotary dial phones to what we have in the latest iPhone or whatever. And there's so many examples of that. And you do sort of reach a saturation point, I think, with learning new things. As you get older, you sort of want to start to stick to the things that you're comfortable with or the things that have served you well in the past. Whereas the younger generations are much more open to new experiences and opportunities. Also because they seem to be the ones that know about those new opportunities or those new experiences because they're seeking them and they're looking for them, and they're looking at people like me and going like, well, why do you use YouTube, or why are you still using Google Docs, or why are you like, there's all these other different ways that you can do this work, and it's faster and easier and quicker. It's because this is the world that I live in, and it really is the point at which I sort of became a professional, and the tools that I used as a professional, those are the things that I know the best. And so, another example of that is like the Adobe Creative Suite, right? Like if you're a creative and you're in your 40s or something, you can probably run some of those tools in your sleep. But they've built a lot of new stuff in there. And I know every time there's a new update, I'm not going to use hardly any of that, which is silly because they're building it for our productivity. They're building it to make our lives easier, but I'm still going back, to the old tools and using it the old way. And I'm like, why did you change my menu? I hate this. Much harder. And again, it's one of those like, well, just type into the AI and tell it what you need to clean up the background. It'll clean up the background for you. You don't have to get the stamp tool out and, and it is funny how it's so obvious to them and not to us.
And they're so used to change. I mean, that's like for us, change is picked up obviously, but they're so used to the next version and the next thing and the next thing. And that in a lot of ways, like we give them a hard time about because it's like, oh, they have, short attention spans and they're always moving around. But I also think like that's a superpower that this generation has is like, they're so open and aware of things changing quickly. I mean, geez, for my son's, just turned 11. It's like in the first 10 years of his life, it's like he experienced politically so many different things, COVID, all these different changes. And then it's like all these different, digital devices changing. So this generation is so used to change that I think it also makes them very open to try new things and to lash onto new things and do different things. And I think that's also where a lot of the innovation that they bring to us and will bring to us comes out of their openness to accept things changing quickly versus we're just like, I'm tired. Don't change my keyboard again, please.
Yeah, I think the pace of technology and the pace of change continues to speed up. And they are definitely sort of on the faster treadmill than we are. I mean, it changed a lot for us, but it changes even faster now for them. And it just seems to be part of their makeup. Like they sort of have a love it and leave it mentality to a lot of things, which we could sit back and say like, oh, well, you're not loyal to, your employer, or you're not, or you change your friend groups too much, or you do this or what. But their mentality is really like, if it's not serving me anymore, then I'm going to move on to something that is. And it's much more normal to them. Loyalty it isn't defined in the same way that it was, I think, for us. And especially when it comes to like brands and products and services and all of that, like they have zero loyalty to anything. We used to think about like, oh, you build brand loyalty. You like, if you buy a Toyota and you love your Toyota, you're going to buy Toyotas for the rest of your life. And now they're just like, no. I mean, if there's a different type of car that comes out that's better, then that's the one that I'm going to get. I'm not loyal to a brand. I'm not loyal to the type of jeans that I wear or any, like, it's just like whatever's out there. Do kids even wear jeans anymore? I don't know. Yeah. My son doesn't. He doesn't like the feel of denim.
Workout pants.
Yeah, exactly. We could talk all about, athleisure. That could be a quick at some point and how that's affected, how we feel. All right. So let's see. kids get discounted because we place so much value on experience. But do you feel like
Mhm.
experience sometimes holds us back?
Well, it's hard is we've heard this too with people where they're like, I want to get a job, but they say I need experience, but I need a job to get experience. And it's like that back and forth. I do feel like people who are younger, you look at them like, well, they don't understand because they don't have experience. But, I think we should challenge ourselves as like the grown-ups to listen to what they're saying and work with it. And I think even working with this class at Ravenscroft, these students at Ravenscroft, it's like they had some really, they had some stuff that was like some simple stuff in there, but they had some really great nuggets that when we worked through it, we talked to, ask good questions and challenge them, like they had some really great insights. I think a lot of times as adults, we see age and lack of experience as like a complete shutdown. Like you don't know because you haven't dealt with life yet. But it's, again, like we're not living in their world. They're bringing us a perspective in their world that we don't have. And so we shouldn't shut it down just because they're younger.
Yeah, agreed. I think that there's a real benefit to naivety too, and sort of altruism. I think experience is a double-edged sword. It allows us more perspective in some ways. It allows us to sometimes be a little less emotionally caught up in things. But at the same time, I know with my son, like I want to give him all of my experience and all of my knowledge, and I don't want him to make the mistakes that I made. But the truth is, like, he has to make mistakes in order to learn, because that's how we learn as humans. We learn through mistakes. We don't learn through people telling us stuff. We learn through doing things and failing and then trying something different. And so a lot of times too, whether it's our own kids or people that we're trying to teach, giving them a safe space to fail and explore their ideas is probably the best way to help them learn and gain their own experience. They're never going to take the wealth of our wisdom and knowledge and experience and all of those types of things for face value and then just go like, okay, dad, yep, I'll go do that. Or same thing with teachers, they don't just take it at face value. They're going to push, they're going to question. And the truth is, when I was younger, when I was in high school and college, I pushed a lot on a lot of things, on a lot of big questions of, like, where do we come from and who is God and all these different things. And I was pushing hard on all of that stuff. And it led me to sort of like my own perspective on things. And that's what all kids are going to sort of show up with no matter what these things are. Mm-hmm. And honestly, I think the more that young people question the status quo and push for different ideas, the better the world is going to be. If we just stick with what we know, then we're going to get stagnant and life gets boring, and other countries, other groups will come along and be more innovative. And that's another sort of key part of this too. Like, I want people who think differently from me to try and fail and then succeed. Because if everyone thinks the way that I did and they have all these same experiences that I do, then we're going to have a pretty boring, in all honesty.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think experience definitely has a role. There's definitely a benefit to it. Another thing too is, like, I've coached tennis now for 10 years and taught a lot of people how to play the game of tennis from, never picking up a racket all the way through to playing. And the one thing that I've learned from that experience, whether it's young people or older people learning the game, is that everyone learns it differently and everyone learns it at their own pace. And just because you want someone to know it and understand it and do it right now, everyone is going to be different. And that's totally fine and totally okay. The point is that they're exploring it and they're getting a chance to try something new, and they might actually teach you new things along the way too. And you have to be open to that. You can't just sit around and go like, I'm the expert here. I will teach you how to hit the perfect serve. What happens if a kid has he just does it naturally in a different way, and then all of a sudden he hits it really, really hard and you don't expect it? Oh, well, maybe there's something I can learn from that. Something as simple as the game of tennis. There's always a new opportunity to learn. And then same thing too, like on the strategy side, I think I have a very specific way that I play the game, and a strategy that I sort of like look at as, because it's the way that fits me and my body. And some other player might come along and say like, yeah, that doesn't work for me. I need to do this instead. And that is really insightful to me. Anytime somebody has a new idea, I want to be open to it because maybe it makes my game better. Just an example of tennis, but same thing in the office too. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing, Maybe they have a different way of doing things that isn't the same old way that I've always done it. And I think that's the most dangerous sort of phrase in business is, well, that's the way we've always done it.
Yeah.
most
Yeah.
dangerous. We don't ever want to get stuck there. And if I'm the old man that's going to keep us from changing and getting better, then it's time to get some fresh blood and new perspectives in.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah. So let's hop to our lightning round now. What do you think today's kids will complain about, in the future with future generations?
Oh man, there's probably always going to be the same kind of stuff where it's like this generation doesn't do blank. They're not, maybe the robots, they're letting the robots do all the housework as opposed to,
Yeah.
I don't know. I do feel like I found myself now saying things that I recognize my parents saying, and I think with my kids too, I try to remind myself to slow down, and you do a great job of this with your son, but like ask really good questions and be involved in the conversation. And I feel like as our kids get older and we get older and then their generation comes in, like the big thing is like, as long as we're communicating and asking each other good questions and understanding that we're all living in our own different versions of our world, there's going to be things that we disagree with. I'm sure my kids are probably going to be like, oh, my kids are they're never on digital devices. Who knows what it's going to be like in 20 years? It could be completely flipped.
Yeah. I think it's going to be stuff like, well, you used to have to wait an hour for your Grubhub delivery, and now you can just print it out through the food printer. It's so instantaneous for you now.
Just proof straight there. Yes.
Like you kids have no patience.
I used to have to wait for some guy to deliver my food. Now my pad thai is.
That's right.
Now my pad thai comes out of this hole in the wall. Yeah.
Can you? Yeah. It's just going to get faster. Like that's the thing about these services is that, we're every next generation is always going to perceive it as like, oh, you don't have to wait as long as I had to wait. And just, it's funny, when I was a kid, it was like fast food was, oh, well, you can just drive up to the drive-through and your food comes straight out. You don't have to wait for somebody to cook it. And great-grandparents' generation was like, well, we had to grow our own food and then we had
right. Yeah.
Then we had to can it and then we would, so it is funny. So what's one aspect of modern society that makes you feel really old and crotchety? I got a lot of these, so I got to narrow it down.
I don't like QR codes. I'm over the whole QR code menu. It just makes me mad whenever I sit down at a restaurant. They're like, before I talk to you. And then it makes me double mad when I have to like order on the QR code and like scan it, look at the menu, order on the QR code. And then the person's like, and here's a place for my tip. I'm like, you didn't do anything other than put the sticker on the table and deliver my food. So that makes me, I get a little frustrated about QR codes.
That's a good one. I think for me, I'm going to add a little bit on to yours, and that's the tipping part of things. I think we're asked for tips a lot now for sort of everything and every service, and even when you don't interact with a person. And I think for me, tipping culture has just gotten way out of hand. I don't know when it's appropriate, when it's not appropriate. I feel guilty even in times when I shouldn't, just because it popped up there. And it wasn't things that I used to tip for before.
And then you're mad for feeling guilty. You're like, how dare you make me feel guilty? And then it's this whole thing.
Yeah. It used to be really clear and simple. It's like, if you dine in at a restaurant, you tip your waiter or you tip your bartender. It used to be really simple. And it was kind of only those places. And if you were at a coffee shop and you throw an extra $1 in or your leftover change when you get something back from ordering your coffee, that was your tip. And those are kind of just the places that we tipped. You might tip your taxi driver if you're in a city or something like that. Those were sort of normal, expected things. But now it just feels like it's kind of everywhere. And the rules are very confusing, if there are any rules at all. But yeah, I don't want to feel guilt for not doing it. But at the same time, those tips add up. It becomes a lot of money at the end of the month. So that's my old and crotchety thing. Kids these days in their tipping culture, they expect so much out of us. So what are things that we can do to think more like a kid?
I think just opening yourself up to new things. I think with like listen to kids, ask them good questions, challenge some of the things that they come back to you as opposed to just saying like, yeah, sure. And I think watching how they interact with technology, the questions they do ask, what actually makes them interested, and then pursue that too. The first thing that you say when someone asks you about something, like don't make your first default no or no because, or we shouldn't do that because then you're bringing in all your old baggage. Like I think kids do a great job of approaching something fresh. Because they don't have baggage yet a lot of times. And so I think the more that we can approach new ideas and beliefs and people with that kind of freshness, I think that opens us up to a ton of more, innovations, opportunities, and ideas.
Yeah, absolutely. I think curiosity is the key. If you want to be more kid-like and you want to think more kid-like, just ask more questions than you have answers and find out what other people's perspectives are. And when you ask those questions, shut up and listen. Like, don't interject. your own thoughts or ideas. Let them finish their whole complete thought. Listen to it, and then just ask them more questions. It's not an argument. It's not it's not a I'm right, you're wrong. You're learning and you're gathering information. So in the same way that you would, prompt ChatGPT, do that in your regular conversations with kids. Prompt them, ask questions, and then listen. Even ask them questions like, how did you come to that idea? Where did you discover this? What's your background? Where did you get that information from? I love to ask those questions to my son a lot about where did you get your information from? And then how did you come to that conclusion? And the way he does it, he'll be like, well, I pulled this from this place and this from this place. And then I learned this at school. And then I put all that together. And then it's like, oh, okay, well, that's really cool, because I didn't know that there was new information out there. I didn't know that there was another place that I could go. And, oh, that's what you're learning at school. This new math thing is, okay, we don't carry the one anymore, whatever. I still can't get over that. And that's elementary school. I don't understand how to do math without carrying the one. So that is another one of my like old man things. I will always carry the one. All right. Well, I think that's all for today. And if this episode gave you any ideas for our Quick Quit series, we'd love to hear more from you. You can visit us at commandqpodcast.com to learn more and to join our proud community of quitters. Check out our full episode library on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. And until next time, this is John.
And I'm Maari.
And we're reminding you that quitters can win and winners can quit. This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute medical, legal, or financial advice. The views, thoughts, and opinions expressed are the guest's own and do not necessarily represent the views, thoughts, and opinions of Command Q or Uncompany.